Vince, you want to try for some rapid fire?
I think it's time. I think the gods are telling us that we need to hit this sooner
I
than
know.
later.
I know. Let's start with this question from Benjamin. What are you looking forward to most about the upcoming football season?
Points. Like, I'm looking forward to points. Like, I really enjoyed the Gator Bowl because Notre Dame's offense was scoring points. And I realized, half the offensive staff is turned over and blah, 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 blah. A bunch of these guys are back. I love the offensive roster. I really do. I know the guys did a show about this. I didn't watch any of it because I was working, but I know the guys did a show about how excited they are for the offense and the roster and all of those different things. I am. Like, that is by far what I'm looking forward to. Yeah, there's question marks on the defensive side, but if Notre Dame can average 40 points a game, I don't care. Like, they're going to be outscoring teams, and it's going to be just fine. So I can't wait for the fireworks offensively.
Yeah, I think that's it for me as well. I think that with all they've got between Hartman transferring in, and even, whether it's Tyler Buckner out there at times as well, but with what they've got at the skill positions, I think we're going to see a lot different looking offense this year. And that's for sure what I'm looking forward to as well.
And I don't care how they score those points. Bombs, short stuff, running the ball. I want to see the scoreboard just light up. Throw some fireworks behind the big screen. Let's get this thing rocking. Like, let's make Notre Dame Stadium a party place with just, score after score after score. Let's have some fun with it.
Yeah. On the subject of Notre Dame football, which we obviously talk a lot about here, does Notre Dame hiring Gino Guidugli and Joe Rudolph outweigh losing Brian Mason?
Man, no, I sell that. I don't think that it. I know that wasn't a buy or sell, but I'm still selling it.
That's still, yeah.
It does not outweigh getting rid of Brian Mason. I think Brian Mason might have been your MVP coach from last year. And at the top of the show, I talked about, I don't know if Brian Mason is going to have a great second season at Notre Dame. Like, he had his first season. That was a lot to live up to if he was still sticking around. And I think that's a legit statement to make. But losing him was the first time I was like, dang, like, that stinks. Like, I was looking forward to the special teams second act, this year and what Brian Mason was going to be able to do. So I don't think it does outweigh it. I think losing Brian Mason is a tough loss. It just is. And apparently Sean is gone again. And so I am interested. I wanted to hear what Sean had to say about this whole situation, about, what if it outweighs or not, because he's the one that comes up with these questions. And so I was wondering if he was leaning one way or the other based on the fact that he came up with this question and, Gino Guidugli and Rudolph and all of these different things. I was curious to see where he came, and if he's not as big of a Brian Mason fan as I was, I'm not 100% sure. But for me, losing Brian Mason is tough. I mean, he used his 1 year at Notre Dame to his absolute benefit. I mean, like I said, the second act of him leaving, of him coming back to Notre Dame, I don't know if he could have lived up to his first one. I don't know. So we'll see. We shall see. Okay. You know what? I'm going to wait a couple more seconds, see if Sean comes back, but then I'll throw the questions out to everybody else and we'll have some fun with this thing. We'll see how it goes. Anthony wants to be a part of the show. I'm cool with it, man. Like, bring it on. We're going to do we're going to finish off this thing together, and we're going to have some fun with it. So next question, fill in the blank. Okay. Or fill in the blanks. It's multiple blanks here. Notre Dame men's basketball. Uh-oh, he's back. I hear him.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Woo! Okay.
I'm about to go to the next question, but I want your answer for the first one.
I unplugged my regular microphone, so
okay.
I'm just using the computer microphone now. So hopefully that helps. Who the hell knows?
I can hear you. I can hear you. We're good.
Whatever. What question were we on, Vince?
Well, the first one about the outweighing with Rudolph and Guidugli, outweighing the loss of Brian Mason. I was curious to see where you wanted
and Rudolph.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I agree with the gist of what you're saying. I mean, you're still losing. You gain two quality coaches in Guidugli and Rudolph. But I don't think that they outweigh or offset what you're losing in Brian Mason, because Brian Mason proved in a very short amount of time that he wasn't just a good special teams coach. He was an elite special teams coach. That's why he went from Cincinnati to Notre Dame to the NFL in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
So while you're still gaining two quality offensive assistant coaches in Guidugli and Rudolph, I don't think that they outweigh losing Mason because of the impact that he had in a short amount of time. Again, just like what we talked about earlier and what I think you said before I disconnected again, is like I would have liked to seen him here a couple more years and see if he's able to sustain it. You know, like Jesse and I were talking yesterday. No one expects you to block 7 kicks in a year, but if you end up 2, 3, 4 a year consistently, that's still pretty acceptable.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like in your big years, if you're up there around 7, 8, 9, you know, you're obviously going to take that as well. So I think he's going to be a big loss, and there are big shoes to fill in replacing Brian Mason.
Well, and I'm also curious to see, like, you know, USC basically, you know, game planned around how good Brian Mason's special teams were, right? Their quarterback was kicking and, you know, all of these different things.
Stayed away from him. Yeah.
How does Brian Mason then respond to that? Right? Because you know that teams were going to copy that, or they were, you know, just like the NFL is a copycat league, so is college football, right? Football in general. So how would he combat that? You know, what would his response be? Those are the kind of things that I was interested in seeing this year.
Interesting. Salty says I sound better. Great. So it's really, so should I just throw this like through the window, or like what?
It's a different
What am
sound.
I to do?
It's a different sound.
Okay.
It's not as crisp, but it's different. It's not bad.
All right. Fill in the blanks, plural. Notre Dame men's basketball opens ACC tournament play tonight against Virginia Tech. It would be blank if they win 2 games to advance to the tournament quarterfinals, and blank if they win 3 games and make it to the semifinals Friday night.
It would be surprising if they won 2 games. It would be miraculous if they made it to Friday, because that would mean that they had to win. How many was it for the second one? 3, 4?
3. They've got to win 3 games to get to the semifinals,
which means they would have to double their current ACC win total.
Yeah, that's right.
So that would be a miracle if that actually took place. An absolute miracle.
Yeah, and I think you know, to me it would be a fluke if they beat Virginia Tech tonight. Do I think they could beat Virginia Tech? Sure, but miracle is the exact word that I had to get to Friday. To win 3 games to get to the semifinals, because you know, Notre Dame is the number 14 seed to begin with. Virginia Tech is the 11 seed. And, you know, Virginia Tech only won by 6. They scored a ton of points, though. A 93-87 game in Notre Dame's 0-for-7 February that they had. You know, but they lost all but one of those 7 games in February by single digits. So they were in games, but they, you know, couldn't punch through. NC State is who that they would have to play next. They're the 6th seed. Obviously, it's going to get a little bit better every time. They only beat the Irish by 3 in January, you know, but then they would get the number 3 seed Clemson in the quarterfinals, and Clemson just got done just pasting them over the weekend. So they've been in a lot of games, haven't been able to push through. I've been there before myself, and it sucks. But, you know, by this time of year, I think that you are pretty much what you are. And unfortunately, I think they're more likely to lead a game by 10 and then end up losing than they are to make any kind of run like that to win. Like if they win tonight, that's almost all you can ask for from this team at this point. Anything else is gravy, you know, but like I realize again, it's a little bit apples to oranges, but Washington State in the Pac-12 tournament, in the women's tournament, they were the number 7 seed. And they ended up winning the whole thing last weekend.
That's true.
Beat a bunch of ranked teams along the way. So I guess crazier things have happened, but I think miracle is the right word for getting to the to the semifinals.
So I feel like I've got the game on right now, and I turned it on. I wanted to see where they were at. They're supposed to start at 7. They're kind of tipping off here in about a minute. And I was kind of hoping Mike Brea is going to bring back the mock turtleneck. It's probably the last game he's ever going to coach at Notre Dame.
That
Probably should have
actually would
brought
have been
back a
pretty
little
sweet
luck.
if he had gone mock turtle in a sports coat, just like those first
absolutely.
years.
But he started to go with the quarter zip. But so I have to say I'm a little disappointed in his outfit choice.
Yeah, well, the mock was basically telling us all along, I really want to be able to wear quarter zips, and he just never went the quarter zip route. And it's like he should have just been taking style advice from Bob Huggins all along, I think. So
yeah.
All right, Chicago Bears general manager Ryan Poles is confident he can get first-round picks in both 2024 and 2025 in exchange for the Bears' number 1 overall pick in this year's draft. The Colts are one of the teams, of course, in desperate need of a franchise quarterback. They're sitting there at number 4. Would you want your team to give up that kind of draft stock to move up 3 spots to the top of this year's draft? Like we're talking this year's draft specifically.
Right. My team did do that. The Bears.
That's right. They moved up 1 spot though, didn't they?
Well, they gave up like their entire draft to get the pass rusher from the Raiders.
Khalil Mack.
Yes, thank you very much. Khalil Mack. They like gave away like their number 1s for the next 2 years. Now, he was awesome. He was really, really good, but they had no offense to back up what he was doing. So they had an incomplete roster because they had no first round picks.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I mean, I guess if of course there's no guarantees. So this is going to sound ridiculous. I was going to say, if you can guarantee you're going to get an actual franchise quarterback, then yes, you absolutely do that. But there's no guarantees that that's the case. And I'm not convinced that there's a franchise quarterback in this draft. And so I would be real happy that if the Bears would do that, absolutely accumulate those draft picks, man. But I would not give them up to get the franchise quarterback. I wouldn't.
Yeah. And that's because like when you look at, I totally agree. Like I'm not sold enough. It's not like you've got like, it's not like the Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf draft where like at least going into that draft, Leaf obviously turned out to be a bust, but there were a lot of people who thought Leaf was going to be the guy and not Peyton Manning. Like you don't have those 2 type of guys in this draft. So I could see giving up this year's number 1 and next year's, but the next 2 years for what you're getting in return, it's really a roll of the dice. So I would not want to give that up because, like teams, the way teams approach the quarterback now, it's a lot more disposable. Like even in the first round than it has been before, because once they get to that second contract, the money that you've got to pay them. They're more willing to just cut bait, like look at the Jets, drafted quarterbacks high in the first round, just a couple of years apart. And they moved on and got what they could. You're giving up the next 2 years of first round picks. So you have to be really, really confident in what you're getting. And so like, I agree. Like, if my team was the Bears and they stood to get those, of course I would want them to get those kind of picks in return. But if I'm the one that's got to move up, I would not want my team to do that because I'm just not sold enough on any of these guys.
Sell. Like that is not smart.
Yes. NCAA's Rules Committee has recommended the adoption of some new rules changes for the upcoming season. Now, these still have to be approved, but this is the Rules Committee that has recommended them to be approved down the line within the next couple of months here. But the biggest change is something that we've talked about, the running clock after first downs. Like now they stop the clock on first downs in college. They have recommended that you go to a running clock like the NFL does, with the exception of the last 2 minutes of each half. So you get under 2 minutes in the half, and then the clock would stop after a first down. Do you buy or sell this potential change for college football?
I actually buy it. And normally I am a sell changing the rules kind of guy. Like I'm just a curmudgeon old school guy. But in this particular case, for 3/4 of the game, more than 3/4 of the game, you don't need to stop the clock after a first down. You just don't. I would be happy with the fact that they would at the last 2 minutes or the last 4 minutes or the last whatever, and pick your time. I don't really necessarily even care what it is. But so at least you have the last like drive, maybe 2 drives where the clock is stopping.
Right.
That's fine. The rest of the game, that is a great way to speed things up a little bit. That's useless time. That is useless time. Run it. I'm fine with it.
I agree. Especially like they were talking about, there were proposals to stop it on out of bounds plays and or keep the clock running on out of bounds plays. Remember, as soon as the ball was spotted, I did not like that. I like this because again, you need to speed things up again.
Mm-hmm.
You already have the fact that there are so many instant replays in college football. I think this helps keep the game moving a little bit, but at the same time, under 2 minutes of the half, your 2-minute drills and that kind of thing, then the clock would stop in those situations. So I like that. And part of the goal, part of the things that they're shooting for here is to, eliminate some plays over the course of the game, because the college football playoff is going to be expanding in a few years. And they're talking about wear and tear on the bodies and, all that kind of stuff. So they're trying to eliminate some plays from the game. We know that it works in the NFL. I see no reason not to do it in college football as well.
Yep, I agree completely.
All right. So the SEC is looking at the possibility of playing a 9-game conference schedule with no divisions once Oklahoma and Texas join the conference next year. If they do that, they would play 3 permanent rivals every year and rotate the other 6 opponents. Alabama's 3 perennial teams would be LSU, Auburn, and Tennessee. So Nick Saban, of course, he's not happy with that. He says, quote, "If you play more games, I think you have to get the 3 fixed opponents right. They're giving us Tennessee, Auburn, and LSU. I don't know how they come to that decision." End quote. So are Nick Saban's comments fair or foul, Vince?
They're foul, because 5 years ago, he would have been super happy playing Tennessee because they stunk.
Exactly.
It's completely
because
foul.
They happen to be good. He's all
right.
Crying about it.
Like, suck it up, dude. Like, heavy is the head that wears the crown. Like, you're going to have to play decent teams. You can't always play the Citadel and Northeast West Miami State. Like, you're going to have to play some tough teams. Sorry, dude. I have no problem with it. It's completely out of bounds for Nick Saban to not be happy with that. Auburn is your rival, right?
Right.
And Tennessee, okay, they're up and down. Yeah, they're up right now, but they're up and down. And LSU, are they going to be up here forever? Probably not, if we're being honest. So, yeah, stop it, dude. Just play the schedule that you're given.
Yeah, I mean, you're Nick Saban. You're at Alabama. You've won 7 national championships. Why do guys like Saban and Gino Guidugli, who've dominated their sports, always whine every time somebody wants to move their cheese a little bit?
Right.
Like it's always the guys at the top, who are getting their feathers ruffled, and they're the ones who have had the most success. It's like, suck it up, put on your big boy pants now, because just what you said, things are going to change over time. One, Auburn is your biggest rival. Like you said, they're not good every year. Tennessee, basically for the last 20 years until the last couple of years, they weren't very good. It's just that Tennessee happens to be good right now, so he's upset about it.
Of course.
And LSU, Alabama is a ratings bonanza, and it's not the level of Auburn, obviously, but it's still a pretty big rivalry in the SEC. You don't want that, rotated, like every 5 or 6 years or something like that. You need to play LSU with some regularity, and like, who does he want to replace Tennessee with? I'm sure he would want Vanderbilt on there.
Of course he would.
So
of course, Vanderbilt,
like,
Missouri, and whoever. Like, no,
that's
dude.
Right. That's right. Like when Mike, like speaking of, when Mike Bray got to Notre Dame when they were still in the Big East, he had to play UConn twice every year. Why? Because Notre Dame is a brand product. And this is when UConn was still, top 10
Mm-hmm.
team, even number 1, winning national championships. Like Notre Dame had to suck it up for the good of TV ratings, basically, even though, Bray's program was decent, but they weren't at that level. They won some of those games,
Right.
but it's like sometimes you got to pay the price because you're the cash cow, and the matchups that you play are going to be cash cows. That's like you said, heavy is the head that wears the crown. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
You're at the top of the heap. You got to do it. You got to suck it up sometimes.
Right. And do you think those other teams are happy they get to play Alabama every year? Probably not.
Right.
Despite what Brian Kelly said about how he wants to play the best of the best. Well, if that's the case, BK, then I want to see your out of conference schedule get a little bit more beefed up before you start telling me you want to play the best of the best. Like, come on, man. Like, that is. I was actually surprised I didn't see that one in a question.
And I was actually surprised that they don't have Arkansas, LSU as part of their fixed rotation, because I always thought that was like a big kind of rivalry game, because Louisiana and LSU or Louisiana and LSU. Arkansas is just north, of it's adjoining with Louisiana. Just that used to be one of those rivalry games that they played the day after Thanksgiving all the time,
right?
Until that went away. But yeah. So, but that's not going to be part of LSU's rotation. So,
I mean, right now their non-conference is Georgia State, Army. Let's see here, Grambling, and Florida State. Like those are their 4 non-conference games right now.
Yeah.
Like, really? Best of the best, BK? Come on, man.
Exactly. So Rich Eisen said on his radio show that he's heard Tom Brady could unretire for a second straight year. Do you buy or sell Brady coming out of retirement again?
I started that rumor, and I'm glad that Rich Eisen was able to pick up on it. No, I sell it completely. I'm good with Tom Brady being where he's at. He doesn't need to be playing anymore. There's nothing really he can do to his legacy to make it, negative or anything. I don't think at this point. But if last year's any indication, like, dude, it's time to hang it up. I mean, it's time. You are no longer able to put a team on your shoulders and will them to the Super Bowl. Like, that time is gone, in my opinion. It's okay to ride off into the sunset, man. It's okay. Sell.
Update to this, by the way.
Uh-oh.
I sent you this question, obviously, earlier in the day. And then about an hour before this show started, I saw Tom Brady retweeted a reporter's tweet about this. And here's what Brady's tweet said.
Goodness.
In reference to this subject. Anyone who thinks I have the time to come back to the NFL has never adopted a 2-month-old kitten for their daughter.
Wow. That's hilarious. You know what? Good on Tom Brady. That is a hilarious response.
That's right. I agree with everything you said. Like, apparently this time, by the way, he filed the paperwork, the retirement paperwork and all this stuff. He didn't do that last year.
Gotcha.
So, he's already gone a lot farther. And I mean, adopting the kitten just puts it over the top, basically.
That's great.
So
that's great. That's funny.
So that's Rich Eisen said that's what he was hearing at the combine, that was like one of the big rumors that came up. But Tom Brady's also already shot it down. So
you know what? One of the other big.
It's like,
yeah.
That's what like when he pushed back the broadcasting thing for a year, it's like, oh man, you're leaving yourself wiggle room.
Sure.
It could happen. But
you know what one of the other big rumors at the combine was? That Michael Mayer's not a good tight end. So the rumors at the combine are garbage. That's the way I look at it right now.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, I made my Jason Witten comparison the last couple shows.
Yeah.
My Jason Witten comp. And that's like a big thing going on in Dallas right now. Like, Cowboys fans are panicked that they might actually draft Michael Mayer with the 26th pick in the draft.
Why are they panicked?
Jason Witten. Because they want somebody other than a tight end.
Oh, you don't want like the best security blanket possible for Dak Prescott?
Yeah, they're like fawning over these 2, rookie projects that they drafted last year, and they think that that's suitable. You don't want an elite tight end. You know, you
No.
take a couple guys you put together in the back rooms in place. So
Come on now. Come on.
I'm on record. Like I would love it if that's who
Oh,
they get. at
look, I
26.
love Cole Kmet.
I
Don't get
mean,
me
there
wrong.
are other needs. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
Just like every team, but I would love it.
Absolutely. Look, what I heard somebody say something the other day, you know, whatever team Michael Mayer ends up getting drafted to, their offense automatically got better. Period. Like and there's no argument that you can give me that will convince me otherwise. None.
Right.
He's a starter walking in the door.
He's a
he makes
plug
your
and
offense
play
better.
guy.
Yes.
Day one.
Yes. No doubt.
Because the biggest thing with him is, you know, he's not just running away from guys, running down, you know, like he understands concepts.
Yes.
And he understands the spots in the defense. He understands how to get open. And he also obviously can fight for those 50-50 balls and, combated catches and stuff like that, as they've talked about. So I think he's a guy that you drop right in on day one, and completely agree with what you're saying. Your offense is automatically going to get better. All right. Well, we made it through at the end after ditching the microphone. My headphone setup is a little bit different without them, but
I bet
we made it through. Hit the like button if you would. Appreciate you stopping by tonight. Don't forget, no show tomorrow because we'll be over at Notre Dame doing all those offensive interviews, including Sam Hartman, Gino Guidugli, Joe Rudolph, and others as well. And then we'll have some audio from some of those guys on Thursday's show when Vince and I are back. So talk to you then.
Wait. Yes, sir. I'll be there. I'm excited. Woo!
Sounds good. We'll talk to you later. IB Nation Sports Talk.